Well, let me bring in Dr. Ranganathan. Dr. Ranganathan, you were in trouble a little while back for contempt and all of that. Now, I suggest that you should file a large number of nomination papers all across the country. Next time you get a knock on your door and they say we're coming to arrest you, just say, look, I have an election to contest, and or to electioneer for my one-man party. So I think you'll definitely be given the benefit of doubt. Would you not, Doctor?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists, all exalted lawyers, I might add, so I am the odd one out. But in the fact that I love dogs and I hate dog stealers, I have something in common with one of your panelists. But, if I were to form a party, Rahul, the problem is even my family members won't vote for me. So there's an exception there. But, this is a very serious matter. And as someone who's not from this amazing domain of law, but it interests me immensely, I have 3 or 4 points to make. Number one, Rahul, all men are equal, but clearly some are more equal than others. And the irony is that those who call themselves as aadmi are more equal than others. Personally, I find this judgment, although I respect the verdict of the Supreme Court, I find it very troubling on the following counts. Number one, you see, law, I used to think, like science, works on precedence. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So the point of the matter out here is, if as some of the excellent evidences that you brought from the past are true, then clearly the Supreme Court has rejected its own decision on those things, especially on Mr. Chautala, who it castigated for canvassing. And out here, a politician has been given bail for exactly that purpose. You talked about Jagan, you talked about various other cases.
Azam Khan.
So clearly, Azam Khan, clearly the Supreme Court is not working on precedents. Number two, as far as the fact that it is a very important job that Mr. Kejriwal is doing and he should be allowed to do it, well, in 2020, the Supreme Court and in fact the High Court denied bail to a doctor. Now, is it a case of the Supreme Court that a neurosurgeon's job is less important, saving lives is less important than canvassing? If that is the case, then let Supreme Court say this, that some jobs are more equal or more important than others. But the most disturbing thing is, Rahul, in a couple of years ago, when ED changed its clauses and people complained that they were draconian, the matter went to the Supreme Court. A 3-judge bench heard it. And it actually sided with the ED and all the so-called draconian clauses. It said the reverse burden of proof was to stay. The property is to be attached. You don't need to give evidence according to ECIF. And most importantly, it said that the money laundering is to be equated and is to be as heinous as terrorism. This is what the Supreme Court said. Now, tomorrow, if Amrit Pal Singh or some other terrorist wants to stand for election, he says, well, I want to be given bail to be allowed to canvass. The Supreme Court will say, well, we've given, bail to Arvind Kejriwal. This person also should be allowed to be given bail. But I want to ask a legitimate question. If in Supreme Court's own words, money laundering, a serious case of money laundering is as heinous as terrorism, has the Supreme Court not erred out here? But I leave it to the other exalted lawyers on the panel to deliberate on this.